we actually delivered like many presentations, but we never delivered any presentation with the cow and the farmer together. So this is the first time. And while we are going to like events like this, we actually still need to work. So the fun fact happened, and I needed to add this slide, that while we were waiting for departure at Arlanda Stockholm Airport, I received this email from our cybersecurity team saying that there is an alert and there is an issue in our infrastructure, specifically in AKS. So I like ran to Gank and I said like, there is an issue.
So when I got this alert, I didn't worry too much because the reason is because we have many different clusters running, and it's very unlikely that we only have one cluster that has this specific issue. So if it's for one cluster, it should be the same for all others. So, but to double confirm on this, so I pinned one team member that is working, and then very quickly we confirmed, yes, this is not from our AWS account. So we returned back to our security and told him, sorry, we are not the right team to reach out.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about our journey and why we are so confident in our infrastructure. So I joined Electrolux maybe 5 years ago as a person who is very passionate for IoT. By IoT, we mean the connectivity features in our appliances. It's subset that connects to the internet. And I joined as a lead for connectivity team, the core product that we built to run the development.
My name's Kon. I'm from the same team as Kristina. I lead the platform team, and then it's also previously called the SRE team. I have experience with development and infrastructure and the SRE, and then most recently platforms.
Yes. So what we do at Electrolux, we provide this mobile app that can be used for different kind of things, remote control with your appliances when you want to just schedule appliance while you're not at home, or you want to use AI and then you copy any recipe, then you paste the link in the app, and the AI is going to set your oven to the right temperature mode and the good timing for this particular dish, so you can enjoy the quality time with your family and friends while you don't need to watch through this glass in the oven how the dish is cooking.
While our consumers are enjoying this digital experience from backend side, it's actually complicated. And through the journey that I joined until today, we have gone through multiple migrations from different cloud providers and through different tech stacks. From the logos, you can see that's actually not all of them.
Yes, and we also need to run our services globally, so it is very complex and challenging. And when my developers have a question, there is this SRE channel in Slack where we can paste our question or a ticket with our request. Then every morning, this Slack channel looked like this. So let's look at one particular request from my team.
So our developers, they run microservices in Kubernetes. So spinning up Kubernetes clusters is like a work that we have to do previously for all teams. And as we know, Kubernetes has different configurations. For example, if someone wants to put things into public subnet, it will work for sure, quick and easy, but not recommended. And then instead, we ask teams, please run everything in private subnet. And but to only advise them to run things in private is not enough because, for example, there are different components actually running in the cluster. And then let's take a look at examples here. For example, we have ingress, maybe ingress controller deprecated already, gateway controller. And then what about auto-scaling? Are they running cluster auto-scaler or maybe horizontal, vertical? What are they using? And even if they are using the same component or implementation, what about versions? Are they running the same versions or different versions? So we would like to standardize everything. So we are very confident that everything works in the same way.
And standardization is actually a matter of survival. So while the growth of the features that are demanded by our consumers, we also hire developers to support those backend features. And the SRE team, as you can see on the graph, is very flat. So on the left side, you see how the team grew through the years. And the standardization is the key. So we're going to start to talk about this first.
And as we know, infrastructure as code is something that everyone uses today in the industry. So if we want to standardize everything, of course, we can put things into modules. For example, here, we can tell the teams we have VPC module, EKS module, RDS module. And more or less, the teams, backend teams, they use similar architecture. So they can just copy and paste like this.
Yeah, we cannot copy paste like this. Our backend developers will need to learn Terraform. So can you just give me a key to AWS console so we can...
Yeah, production key to developer is not possible, but we can consider if we want to remove Terraform, what we can do. So as you know, we are coming from Sweden, and then this is something called Samla in Sweden. Every February, people are eating this. So at the same time, we also launched a project called Samla, basically to address this problem. So what Samla did is it's a very simple script, and which takes YAML as the input. So instead of asking developers, please write Terraform, and now you only need to write YAML, and the value of each YAML is basically key value of the Terraform input. And this is how it looks like. And Samla will generate the Terraform code and even provision the resources afterwards. Very easy.
Very easy, but first thing, developers need to know how to use the script. And even though we learned how to use the script, then I noticed that some of developers, they still come to your desk, put their laptop and say, like, can you click apply? Because it's very scary to apply in production. So I thought, I read this article, and it says, like, we can use Backstage and we can do this internal developer platform or portal. Can we try to work together and build this internal developer platform instead?
So since Samla, as you know, is more like a Python script, we cannot put that directly into Backstage. So what we thought is, okay, let's use Backstage, but only for the front end.
Yes. So we took Samla, converted it into the backend service, and then for SRE team, as there are no front-end engineers, it's very good to have a framework that will give some UI components. So with what we built and what we rolled out, it was this first version of internal developer platform as a Backstage plugin. And then developers, they can go and provision cloud resource, for example, EKS through UI. They don't need to be a Kubernetes expert. They just need to put minimal variables like cluster size, node type, and then the resource is going to get provisioned. And we got this amazing feedback that they love it. This is very safe, very secure. Then the result of this internal developer platform was the speed, the crazy speed of self-service way. Because if I just took the tickets that SRE team closed, like from the day when it was filed to the day it was closed, then there was all these follow-up questions from SRE engineers, like what type of infrastructure do you want? And then everything else was basically resolved very quickly, just a couple of days, like minutes, if you want to provision cloud resource through internal development platform. But there was also, it's not a success story, right? So there was a problem that the cost go high and we needed to build another tool.
So what we built is another Backstage plugin, which aggregates all the cloud costs through different providers. And then with this, developers, after they provision the cluster or provision other infrastructure, they can come back and check the cost and then to make sure it runs as expected.
Yes, so they don't need to put Excel large and then they started to be more cautious. But there was a second issue with that. And it was when we need a new resource. Yes, I wanted to mention that it's open source. So if you haven't scanned the QR code, yes, where is the QR code? Sorry.
And
wait, I forgot to tell people that we open sourced that. Sorry again.
Yeah.
Yes, so we open sourced it, we got a lot of contributors, and then now it's maintained by contributors. So when the new resource is required.
So as we know, AWS keeps launching like new services, or even for existing services, we cannot cover all because we have to craft the Terraform module for different resources. And also the front end is hosted in Backstage is also customization. So that means if we want to support a new resource, what we need to do is first, we need to do the customization support in backend and also in the front end. And we realized this is not scalable because if we are going to support majority of the AWS resources, it will take us probably like 1 year.
Yes, but it was very good with the open source approach. So we tried to convert our internal developer platform into the open source solution, and then that's the differences.
So the difference here, as you can see, internal platform, since we are the builder of both the platform and the templates, and then we can kind of customize as much as we can, and we can deliver very fast. But the open source version, what we consider is we cannot do this. Instead, the open source should be a generic platform or framework that can support end users to configure. And for our internal version, developers mostly consume the templates that we create because they trust us. But for open source, end user will become, it's more like a marketplace, you can imagine. End users, they can add their new templates if they want and also consume templates from others. And internally, we only use AWS GitHub, so we only need to support 2. But for open source, we added the integration support, so it can support majority of the major providers today. And one important note I want to add is when we talk to developers, most developers are happy with this UI solution that we provided internally, but there are also teams who are kind of against this approach because they want to understand more about the source code. So for open source version, we get this feedback, and what we did is first, Backstage plugins still there, but we also added the standalone front end to the project itself, and also the platform can create pull requests to Git, so developers who would like to see the code, they can see the completed generated code, and they can also choose to provision the workflow using their preferred tool if they don't want to use the platform.
And this is how the standalone frontend looked like. Because we already updated it recently. So this is the creation of VPC. For developers, the approach is still similar. They need to go to the library of the templates, and the templates can be, as Gant mentioned, created either by themselves or by us. So then they know that the template is ensuring all the best practices as standardization, the golden path that we chose for our organization. Then they can have a different way to put their variables, and then they start with approval flow to get the resource provision. Then they can have the metadata, and they can do the dry run. So we would now just see how the VPC is going to get up and running. And it is not scary for developers, as they know that either we or them is the owner of template, and they still know where we sit, so they understand how the platform works if they need to ask us. Okay, VPC is going to get provisioned. Yes, but that's not the only feature.
And this is for provision one resources, but what developers really need is provision the whole architecture, right? It involves probably not only VPC, but several databases, maybe several clusters as well. So what we did after that is we created this blueprint feature that can allow developers to compose the templates together and then link them together. So instead of creating resources one by one, first create the templates and then associate templates to create a blueprint, and later on you can save the blueprint, and then you can provision everything all together within different regions, for example.
Okay, while it's wiring, we can explain how the platform works under the hood at Electrolux. So this is Infra Kitchen, and then we will take 2 roles. One is infra and one is developer.
The main responsibility of the infra or platform role is 2 things. One is manage the platform itself, for example, setting up the integration. And another important thing is to manage the templates, basically the infrastructure as code, and do the versioning and do the release of the template. And the platform itself will take care of the integration with Git and then versioning and then even raising pull requests if they need.
And when templates are in place, then developers can come and start to use those templates for creating the cloud resources, and then they will get the logs, the audit, so they will not step on each other's feet, and they will understand who did what kind of changes, and the revision control. So if we look back in these 2 separate set up for organization, before IDP, we had these 2 different mindset of developers. One developer wanted to focus on writing the business logic, and it was easier just to send the ticket or the request. And then another type of developer would be more advanced, who know how to write a Terraform, and they would want to create resources themselves without asking SRE team for help. But then we are completely blind to that. If incident management is happening, we need to troubleshoot those resources. We don't understand what is going on there. So after we launched IDP, the difference is that now they are very independent from us. They don't need to ask us for resource creation or infrastructure management in general. And the best practices and the standards are in place, so we are not running into issues when we need to troubleshoot. And then we also use this platform at SRE team as well. So it's not only for developers.
Yes, we use it almost like every day. For example, as you remember, the ingress controller vulnerability, Nginx.
Yeah, last year.
And then I was on a trip and then got this news, okay, ingress has an issue. And then what we did is we quickly updated our templates and then patched the ingress controller and released a new version. And then through IDP, we're able to patch all clusters so right away. So in this case, we don't need to reach out to the dev team and ask them, please update your ingress controller.
Yes. And while we're talking about platform engineering in our presentation, there is one more infra product that we've built. So we have Infra Wallet for the cost, we have Infra Kitchen for the managing infrastructure, and then we have Infra Assistant for that SRE channel that I mentioned to help developers to answer the questions, not only answer questions, actually execute tasks. So whatever they want to know if the service is operational, it's connected to MCP of our observability platform, then it can respond. And then if they need an access, then it also can grant an access based on the user permissions. Then when we talk about this kind of AI bots, there is a trick with the knowledge base. And for infrastructure, for example, the information was like in Confluence and some GitHub pages. So it's not really describing the infrastructure. And then this piece was missing.
And what we built afterwards is we realized, that bot works well, but it's not part of the platform. And but since the platform itself already have the context of for example, the infrastructure was created by someone, updated by someone, owned by anything. And also behind the infrastructure, this is actually a source of truth that is in Git. And then also in AWS, in Azure, in Google, or whatever cloud, that is the resources provision through the platform. So we added the MCP server there as well. So now developers, they can use AI agent through MCP. They're able to fetch the information they need instead of asking the agent, please check for example, my 10 AWS accounts to check which one is not working.
Yes, because cloud resources, they are not isolated from each other. And this abstraction that Infra Kitchen gives, it's beneficial for both agents and human. And there are use cases that some we covered, some we are going to cover in the future. So the first use case is troubleshooting, which is very well received by developers because they loved it most. So we had this issue with routing, and then developers from one of the backend teams, they started to troubleshoot and asking questions through the Infra Assistant. Then they could identify that was issue with routing and which account. And then they also found the pull request to infrastructure repo. So this is very, very helpful. There are other use cases.
And while troubleshooting is basically read-only, but we would like to do something more. So we understand that, okay, developers today, they can go to the platform and click the UI and provision. But with agent, maybe this will change as well. So through MCP server, they could also update the templates if they need. For example, I would like to add a new parameter, but instead of going to the repo and do a pull request, then the agent can do because it knows where it is. And also provision infrastructure, it will be the same. I want to spin up an EKS. Instead of going through the UI, I can ask agent to do it.
Yes, and also if we want to have a new template written, then we can again ask one agent to write the template, then another agent to rewrite template, then the last agent to trigger the provisioning. So this is the next steps that we are going to take. And if you want to check that everything that we said is true, that the code is there, you can scan the QR code and see it yourself. The front end is going to look a little bit better. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, thank you.